Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on today. We are about to take part in a wonderful discussion. I apologize for not the content, but the timing of it, because it's right before Thanksgiving, y'all. And we are about to talk about something that just might mess up your sweet potato pie, your collard greens, maybe your dressing, but hopefully not. Hopefully you could just indulge just a little bit. But we're going to talk about diabetes on today. But welcome everyone to Birmingham Bible Church's Winning Wednesday. We are just super excited that you have decided to join us here in this virtual space. It is nice just to be able to get some information like this, and don't have to fight traffic, go all over the world, and you just have it right here at your fingertips. So please do me a favor and make sure that you are sharing this information with those that you know, those that you love. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching via YouTube or Twitter, welcome everyone to this virtual space called Winning Wednesday. And, November has so many observations. Last week, we talked about scholarships. So those of you who are going back to school, if you have little ones or older ones who are trying to get education paid and not have to have student loans, go back and listen to that with Shot of Spikes. We also had LaShawn Springer talk about being a caregiver. She has her own caregiving agency. And so if you need a break, need some time off, please make sure you go back and get her information so you can contact her. But on today, we have the very capable Dr. Deborah Witt. I am so excited that she is on today. I've been trying to get her for a minute. Schedules just wasn't lining up, hers and mine. And so we've had this topic before, but I want to introduce everyone to Dr. Deborah Witt. I'm just going to read to you just a little bit of her bio. She completed her residency training at the Department of Community Medicine, Family Medicine at Thomas Jefferson University. She continued her career for more than 26 years. She has worked extensively with faith and community-based organizations to promote health and wellness, which is why I'm glad she's here on today. She has a lot of just things what she has done in the Philadelphia area, so I can let her talk about that. But I'm just really excited that she is really into diabetes prevention and management. And so I invite all of you to please listen to Dr. Deborah Witt as she shares with us the information that we are going to need, that is, of course, for our life and our living. So welcome, Dr. Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me to November Winning Wednesday.
Yes. And thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I want you can go ahead and you can tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit more about yourself, or you can jump into your presentation, however you want to roll.
Sure. So one of my passions is making sure that the light bulb goes off when people hear about what they need to do. So that's been my lifelong dream, is just to make sure the community understands, and then they'll do better if they understand and also feel comfortable asking questions, because a lot of times we don't know what to do because we don't ask the questions of our providers. So I always encourage people to write down your questions before you go to your visit, so you don't get nervous and jump over them and miss them. So
yeah,
I'm excited to be here because I do this all day, every day. And I am in the community now. I am excited because I get to meet people from all walks of life.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that even with this discussion that we have, that people will realize, oh, I have that, and or my cousin has been experiencing that. And like you said, the light bulb will go off and like, oh, I need to go ahead and get that checked out.
Yes. And oftentimes you go to certain venues and get some information, but you're just not sure. So this is a great opportunity to hear it from the medical perspective and what we want you to know, because It's so important. Diabetes is so important to know. And I have hopefully some pearls, things that you probably heard, but now you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it now.
That's it.
Mm.
That's it. That's it. So, yes, ma'am. Well, let's jump into it.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm excited to just say what you need to know about diabetes. All right, so I'm trying not to go too fast because sometimes I act like I'm teaching the medical students, so I'm not going to do that for you all. But the goal is to really give you a chance to think about it. But I'm glad to be here during November Diabetes Awareness Month. And so you see all those colors behind us. Those are the Jefferson Collaborative for Health Equity. And that's our main logo. And our goal really is to engage communities for enhancing their health and wellness. So if you see that little color banner, that's us. So our goal today is to talk about the facts about diabetes. What is diabetes? The signs and symptoms and complications. This is what we want to stay away from. And this is one of my major things. I want you to know your numbers, like you know your dress size, like you know your shoe size. I want you to know your number. So if I come up to you and I say, what's your number? I want you to be able to say, and ways that we can prevent and, of course, manage for those who have diabetes. But our goal is to prevent diabetes. And that's what we say lifestyle changes are ideal. So I'm going to start with just making sure that we did you know, and this is a United States report card from 2021. So that was right in the middle of the pandemic. So I can only imagine what it is for 2023. But can you see there that it says about 38 million people have diabetes? That's 1 in every 10. So that means if I'm sitting on a row with 20 people, that's 2 people right there.
Right.
And of those 10, 1 out of 5 don't even know they have diabetes. So that makes it even more concerning because people have diabetes and have no idea. So one of the things that we're doing at the collaborative is getting out into the community and helping people understand, yes, we want you to know about diabetes and see if you have it so you can get care. Now, this is a new word. Some people have heard this, pre-diabetes. And I'm going to tell you more about it, but about 98 million Americans, that's 1 in 3, have pre-diabetes. So again, there's something that people don't know that they have. So you're going to say, well, how do I find out? Well, I'm hopefully going to show you how to do that. And I gave you the reference there. You can get that information from the cdc.gov. The next slide is just a second part of the report card. And look at how much it costs. $413 billion total medical costs and loss of work and wages for people who are diagnosed with diabetes. So it's a very expensive, very, very expensive disease. And continues on to say medical costs for people because they have to take their medicines, the insulin, and we know that we're trying our best to contain some of the costs, but can I tell you that the cost is still very high? And the other part of that report card just talks about the risk. And I'm going to go into that in more detail because I believe if people know what their risks are, they're going to straighten up and fly right. That's what my spiritual mom said. Straighten up and fly right. So blindness kidney failure, heart disease, stroke, and loss of toes and feet, or even some legs.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the risks. So we want to prevent that.
Mm-hmm.
So you might say, am I at risk for type 2 diabetes? Well, the Black and Brown community is always at risk. But there are other things that we have to keep in mind. Pre-diabetes, which you're going to learn about. If you're overweight, you have a significant family history, you have decreased physical activity. We got rid of the big word that starts with E because everyone gets nervous when they hear exercise. Like, oh no, I can't do that. So now we say physical activity. And if you had gestational diabetes with pregnancy. So you are at risk if you have any of those things. And now they even have a pre-diabetes risk test. I'm going to show you that risk test because that is something you can do online and you can say, all right, raise my hand, I'm at risk. So pre-diabetes means that the blood glucose or sugar is higher than normal, but is not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes. So type 2 pre-diabetes means that you have the opportunity to delay type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So I think of it as prevention of diabetes. Mm-hmm. And you can take the risk test online. Mm-hmm. And this is what it looks like. And it asks all these specific questions and it really wants to know if you're doing that physical activity or you're male or female, if you're overweight, oh my. Mm. And then it calculates your number. And if you get a number greater than 5, then you're at increased risk. Mm. So you can see those questions, how old, your age, male or female, if you've had the diagnosis of gestational diabetes, you have a family history, you were diagnosed with high blood pressure, are you physically active, and what's your weight category? That's the little chart on the right. But I put that there because I want you all to be able to go online, take that risk test, the pre-diabetes risk test, and determine if you are at increased risk. And they are having these national diabetes prevention programs that's evidence-based so that you can change your lifestyle. And you can find a program near you. It can be online or in person. And if you have diabetes, you might even say, well, I want to be a lifestyle coach. So you can even be trained to be a lifestyle coach. So definitely Google National Diabetes Prevention Program, or you might say DPP program. So all what you've been waiting for, what is diabetes? Well, we think of it as a chronic, long-lasting disease that affects how your body turns food into energy. You're like, oh, okay. Now I understand a little better why it's associated with all of the holidays, the birthday parties, all of these events that we have to go to. So now I understand how important it is food into energy. And this is for those people who like to know about the body parts. So insulin is made by the pancreas and it converts the glucose or sugar into energy for the body. And sometimes you might want to think of it like insulin is the key to open the door for our cells to use the glucose. And so That is so important. The insulin allows the body to use the glucose for that energy. And if there's too much, it becomes a problem. And the pancreas is like, I don't know what to do. I can't do it. It's just going, I'm having a really hard time. And I put that little picture there just so you could see all those colorful fruits and vegetables. That was a subliminal message for you. So there are two main types of diabetes. There's the type 1, where the pancreas is not producing insulin for the body at all. And they believe that's an immune reaction. Whereas type 2, the pancreas fails to make enough insulin correctly for the body. So just keep that in mind. Majority of people have type 2 diabetes as we get older. Now, remember, I mentioned the gestational diabetes. That's diabetes during pregnancy. So there are some women who have to be tested during pregnancy. We test everyone to see how their body handles a glucose load, or it's almost like a soda with a whole bunch of sugar in it. And then they check their blood to see how they've handled them. Depending on if you have the gestational diabetes, that is you're at increased risk. So again, there's two types, type 1, type 2 are the main ones, but there's also the gestational diabetes. Now, this is something that really is very passionate for me. Don't mix these two. And you're like, all right, so what is it? What is it? High blood pressure and diabetes. And the reason why I spend a lot of time talking about high blood pressure and diabetes, because the two together, they are very aggressive. And that affects our body. So if you have high blood pressure and diabetes, you have to work harder because they do some of the similar type of damage to our arteries. So I just wanted you guys to know, we don't want you to have both of these. So if you have high blood pressure, be sure to get into the pre-diabetes class and don't get diabetes. If you have diabetes, keep your blood pressures low. And we want you to know that this is how diabetes affects the body. So you see the normal artery there. You got nice, good blood flow. The red blood cells are going to your baby toe. They're going everywhere it needs to go. But when you have high blood glucose, sorry about that misspelling, high blood glucose, the sugar is damaging the blood vessels. So the blood vessels get hard and they're like, I'm having a really hard time. And you can have blocked arteries, and then the blood doesn't flow as easy. So important to remember that when you have high blood glucose or blood sugar over time, it really puts a whammy on those arteries. And our arteries are all through our body. And it goes all the way down to the tiniest vessels, to your eyes. Oh my, yes. So we have to be mindful. As imagine you're a red blood cell and you're trying to get where you need to go and you can't get there. So you can have increased complications such as heart disease, stroke, blindness, chronic kidney disease leading to dialysis, and peripheral artery disease. And that's because all of those vessels go everywhere and they are affected by the high glucose or blood sugar. So if you have diabetes, you're at increased risk for all of these things. And the complications can be unsurmountable because it goes all the way to those little tiny vessels in the kidney, in your legs. Those vessels in your legs say, I have had it. The sugars have been too high for too long, and I'm not able to get the blood where it needs to go. So I like this picture. Some people like visual aids. This is a nice one. Diabetes complications. Again, it's the heart attack, the peripheral artery, the stroke. Stroke is like the vessels in the brain get clogged. It's almost like a heart attack in the brain. And the diabetic foot, glaucoma, cataract. Oh my, yes, there's all those blood vessels in the eyes that get affected. And this is a little more visual how the diabetes affects our body. The eyes, the kidneys, the skin, the feet, our brain, of course, the heart, and can end up with amputations. So that narrowing of the arteries in the legs, and you step on a thumbtack and you don't look at your feet, and then it gets worse and worse and worse, and you get an infection. And sure enough, it can cause amputation. So we do recommend you looking at your feet, looking at your skin, any wounds that are not healing, and especially the kidney disease. We know that dialysis is a way to help us live longer. Thank goodness for dialysis, but we're trying our best to increase transplants, kidney transplants. Okay, so you say, well, right. I thank you for letting me know what diabetes is. So, what are some of the signs and symptoms? Do I have frequent urination? Oh, yes, excessive thirst, like you're drinking gallons and gallons of water. Or you have that healing wound it's not getting better. It's really going very slow. You got blurred vision and extreme fatigue. Oh boy. Now, a lot of people could say extreme fatigue, but I mean, it's really, really bad. And unexplained weight loss, like you lose like 30 pounds in 2 weeks or something like that. And you think you're doing good, but it could be diabetes. So I always tell my patients out in the community, listen to your body, pay attention. Don't just keep going, drinking all that water, and then, oh, I'll put some triple antibiotic ointment on it. No, blurred vision. Yes, you got to go ahead and get your eyes checked. It could be a sign that something's going wrong. And we as providers, we only see, okay, every 3 to 6 months, okay, once a year, but you are with you every day. So you need to pay attention to listen to your body. Prevention. Okay, so this is what we can do. So we got to have a balanced, healthy diet with our vegetables, fruit, plant-based proteins. I was like, okay, what is that? Plant-based proteins, quinoa. Oh, yeah, I like that. Of course, fish and seafood. But you got to try something new and different. Don't stick and stay with the things you're always doing. Of course, the physical activity, at least 30 minutes a day for 5 days, 150 minutes a week. That's all I have to do? Yes. And if you do more, that's even better. And it's not, running a marathon. It could be walking the dog. It could be raking the leaves. It could be going up and down the stairs in the house in the winter. And my favorite, I tell my patients, go to the mall, walk the mall in the winter, Just don't take any money. So, healthy weight, lose and maintain. Dilated eye exam, definitely go get your eyes examined because there may be something that the ophthalmologist can say, I'm concerned about this. And definitely, we talk about this all the time is weight. Everybody worries about the weight, but keep an eye on your weight. And I love that the little lady with her sneakers, she's walking up a stone. And walking is free. You don't have to go to the gym. It's free. All right. Another one of my major, quit smoking. So remember how I said that the blood glucose over time affects the arteries? Well, smoking does the same thing. Because what happens is it makes the blood sticky. It's sticky red blood cells, and it can block the arteries. And over time, that smoke hardens the arteries, and it's not able to get where it needs to go. That is why those people who are smoking have more trouble with their problems with their legs, with peripheral artery disease. And there's even some statistics that show African American men have the highest rate of amputations. Smoking. So they're doing studies on that.
Hey, Dr. Witt,
Yes.
let me ask you about the smoking. So, because now people are smoking everything. There's of course there's cigarettes, there's cigars, there's vaping. So
Yes.
does this mean smoking anything? I'm not saying you're a proponent of either one.
Yes. I would say smoking anything.
Okay.
Because as you say, vaping, it may not be affecting those arteries.
Yeah.
But it is affecting the lung, and that's new, and we don't know what it's doing to the lungs, right? So smoking, and people say, well, I do the cigar, and so I don't really inhale. But if you've been doing it for 35 years, it's still going to have some effect. So I do think any smoking of any sort is going to be a problem. Now, they've been changing for the kids, changing the flavored cigarettes and things of that nature. And I think that's really important because from what I understand, and I've talked to a lot of my patients, they say I started smoking when I was 15, 17. And they're still smoking, at 55 and 60. Wow. So you can imagine you start some of these habits very young and it continues. Okay, let's see what's next. I think that this is one of my favorites. Knowing your numbers. As I mentioned, you know your dress size, you know your shoe size, you know what your what is sports jacket size. You need to know your numbers. So fasting glucose, that means it's checking your immediate response after you fast overnight. A hemoglobin A1C is how your body is handling the glucose or sugar over the past 3 months. And I'm going to explain each one of these. And then the creatinine and microalbumin helps you to know your kidney function. So when you're seeing your provider, you want to know what those numbers are before you leave or after you go and get your studies and you get your results. So the fasting glucose. So you wake up, you're checking your sugars. So we all want our numbers to be below 100. Nothing after midnight. Check your glucose. It should be under 100. If it's between 100 and 125, then you're like, ding, ding, ding. I might be pre-diabetic. I got to watch it. Even if you're like 108, that's a sign I need to be doing better. with my diet? Or what did I eat late last night? Was it a bowl of ice cream? It's probably going to be high, right? And then if your sugar's over 126, okay, that is what we use for the diagnosis from the fasting glucose. Now, of course, you do have to have that glucometer to do that. So some people go ahead and get the glucometer because they just want to keep up with the numbers. Now, the next is called the hemoglobin A1C. And this is the test that we can do out in the community. People have no idea. And what it's testing is that extra glucose or sugar that's in the body that can't be used because you have too much in the blood. It sticks to the hemoglobin component of the red blood cell. And that is what we're measuring because our red blood cells, they kind of die off after 3 months. So if you have a low A1C, that's good. That means that you don't have that much blood glucose circulating. But if you have a high A1C, look at all those little blue dots. They're holding on to the hemoglobin. That means that you're at increased risk of developing the type 2 diabetes. And my favorite is this chart. And I tell all my participants, patients, put this on your refrigerator door. You want your numbers to be below 5.7, you're normal. If you're in the 5.7 to 6.5, you're pre-diabetic. And if you're greater than 6.5, you're diabetic. So remember, pre-diabetes, you have an opportunity to fix it, right? So you can lose the weight. You can eat better. Your fruits and vegetables and the plant proteins. Okay. Now, if you're in the 6.5 and above, this A1C will help your provider and you know how you're doing. And say your A1C was 9 and now you got it down to 7, that means you're on the road to success. You're improving your numbers. But this is a very valuable number. And people who are living with diabetes, we are making sure that they get that test pretty regularly. But if you're in the normal range, you probably just get it done once a year. If you're pre-diabetes, okay, maybe every 6 months. You gain some weight, all right, you want to get it checked. But the important thing is that you know your numbers. And the next slide is just important because this is something we don't talk about much out loud, and that is microalbumin. Now, in the medical arena, we do. But when you're out on the street and you're, at the grocery store, you're not saying my microalbumin is this. But it's so important that you talk with your provider and determine how healthy are your kidneys. And when we measure your microalbumin, it lets us know that there's some albumin or it's a form of protein that's getting through the filtering of the kidney and is getting into your urine. So that's why we ask you for a urine sample, because we want to see what your microalbumin is. So you can go back to your provider and say, I need to know, what was my microalbumin? And look at this. We don't talk about this much either. The stages of chronic kidney disease. It's so important that you ask. Because it's not always told to you, because a lot of providers say, okay, I can tell you stage 1, 2, or 3. People don't listen. But we want the kidneys to be healthy. All right? So ask your provider, what stage am I? And they should be able to tell you, oh, your kidneys are normal functioning. You're not spilling any protein. So you're doing good. Or This is concerning. You're at stage 3. There's those 5 stages. You're at stage 3. So you're having some moderate loss of function. So they're probably going to put you on some medicines to help get that under control. But then you got to do your part too. And of course, my favorite thing, and you'll see this at the end, water, 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 drinking your water. Now, if you have dialysis, you have to be careful. Can't drink a lot of water. But you need to talk to your provider and say, I learned something. I'd like to know what stage am I? And what's my microalbumin? But diabetes affects those tiny, tiny arteries in the kidneys. It's called glomeruli. But you're gonna be like, okay, I remember that. But way down to the nitty-gritty where that filtering is being done, that's what gets affected by the diabetes. All right, so medicine and supplies. I'm sure you all have heard about all these wonderful medicines. You're like, I'm not taking it. Or like injections. Oh, no, I don't want to do it. A lot of people are resistant, but you have to be mindful that you need to follow the recommendations so we can save the kidneys, so we can save those arteries, bring that blood glucose and sugar down. And they have so many different types nowadays. So you have to be willing to give it a try. And then if you have side effects, you have questions, talk to your provider. Of course, that's most important. And then really, I just wanted you guys to know the future is moving really fast. You all know about the continuous glucose monitoring. That's that little sensor that you can put on the skin to measure your glucose in the cells. And then they got the USB and the Bluetooth, and it puts it on your phone. And you're like, whoa, okay. So I don't have to stick my finger. I can use the continuous glucose monitoring. Yes. And Omnipod insulin pump, it automatically administers the correct insulin under the skin. So you don't have to stick yourself all the time. So the future is bright. They're trying their best. The researchers are trying their best to find ways to help you feel more comfortable monitoring your blood glucose, making sure you're going in the right direction with your A1C, responding to how you've eaten, and really making it a lot more, I would say, acceptable. Because for a long time, people are like, I'm not doing it. And it has paid the price. Of course, I couldn't go without saying, you got to have your vaccines. And it's November, you need to get your flu vaccine, your COVID vaccine, and RSV. You're like, all 3? Yes, all 3. You need to go ahead and get those because we can't always tell the difference between flu, COVID, and respiratory syncytial virus. Oh, is that right? So you may have one of those and not know, especially after what we just went through for 3 years. And then, of course, you want to make sure you're up to date with your zoster or shingles vaccine and the pneumonia. Now, you know there's certain guidelines, so definitely check with your provider. Say, am I supposed to be getting my shingles shot now or my pneumonia shot? They'll be able to tell you. But flu, COVID, and RSV is now. And you can get them in the same arm too. So I have to circle back to the heart. Remember how I told you don't have these 2 things together? And this is why. You need to know your blood pressure numbers. Hypertension or high blood pressure is called the silent killer. And that's because it often does not cause any symptoms. So you mean to tell me you could be walking around with high blood pressure? Yes, yes, and yes. And another one of my favorite things to put on the refrigerator door is this chart. So you know, after you come back from the provider's office, you're like, okay, my systolic number is here, my diastolic number is there. So I am in the elevated blood pressure range, but I'm trying to get back to the normal. And then they have wonderful things that you can do, like decrease your sodium intake, work on the weight, some of the similar things you're already working on. But I definitely want you all to think about your heart. You need your heart, right? The heart is more important. Okay, diabetes and the heart disease, they don't like each other. They gang up on you. So I say use your blood pressure numbers as a warning light if it's elevated. You know how when you're driving your car and it says engine light, you're like, uh-oh, I got to get to the repair shop to figure out what's wrong. Very similar. A blood pressure number should be like a warning light. If something's up, whether it's diabetes, whether it's kidney disease, whether it's, oh, I had too much sodium on my hamburger. Okay, so we're going to say turkey burger. The issue is you do need to know, and that's why I said circling back to the heart. I always ask when I'm doing presentations, how many people thought about their heart today? Not very many people raise their hand. The only time when you worry about it is if it stops on you, right? Or it skips a beat. That is so important. You don't want to wait to then. You want to know if your pressures are under control. We want you to stay in the normal range and the elevated blood pressure range because that means you can work on it. You get to this red section, that is a major concern. And so you're going to see the provider putting you on medicines to bring it down. And oftentimes I have, participants and patients say, but I don't want to be on 5 medicines. I'm on 5 different medicines. That's because they're targeting certain parts of the body, whether it's the kidneys, where it's the fluid. So, the fluid buildup, or whether it's just to make sure your heart rate slows down. But if they put you on a blood pressure medicine, please be sure to take it, because would you rather be on 1 blood pressure medicine or 5 blood pressure medicines? Most people say 1. And do it for yourself and your family. I just love those pictures. It looks so good. Makes you want to think like, I can do it. But health is wealth. We don't think about it, but we already saw what the cost is if we're not healthy. And so I just want to leave you with this next slide. Our body depends on water. So I'm like, whoa, if we could just do that and stay away from the sodas and the coffees with the creamery, do sparkling water if you need the bubbles. I teach my participants that you definitely need to use a straw if you're doing seltzer water a lot, because the dentist says it can affect the enamel on your teeth. So just be mindful. Water's your best friend. But if you're like, I gotta have a little bit of fizz, sparkle the water. And there's no calories. Yay. All right. This is the American Heart Association. They just started this new, it used to be 7, now it's Life Essential 8. So I designed most of my programs around that. And guess what they added as number 8? Sleep.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, oh,
Yes, I
you
see
mean
it.
to tell me we need to be sleeping more to be healthy? All right. How many people have more than 8 hours of sleep? Not many. Okay, how about 7? Not many. 5. All right, we need to do better.
Yeah.
I even have a slide that I do in one of my presentations. It talks about all the benefits of sleep. I'm like, I need to be sleeping more. This is really serious. So I thank you
Yes.
for having me, and I'm happy to see if I can answer any questions.
Oh, Dr. Witt, I knew you were going to be good. I just knew it. I knew it. I knew it. This was wonderful. I mean, talked about it in such a plain manner where I know everybody understood it. So questions. So I know we need to know our numbers, but as parents, because I know certain children develop and maybe that's type 1. So
Well,
forgive me if
yes.
I'm saying it wrong. Okay. So when should we start testing our children? Because I know when you take them to the pediatrician, I don't remember them testing them off the bat for, diabetes.
No, they don't. We
Yeah,
do test the children for diabetes, but you as a mom know something's not right with your baby.
right.
So what ends up happening is usually a mother has some kind of idea that there's something wrong. So maybe they're peeing more, or they're drinking a lot of, or they're not gaining any weight. But when your baby's not doing the regular milestones.
Yeah,
So, and you always are making sure you're going for those routine visits.
right.
Now, that is the time to bring up anything that's unusual.
Mhm.
And so, a lot of times, I believe that parents are the key to determining what needs to be tested, and then they can go further.
Okay.
But I have not diagnosed a baby in my clinic, newborn or, toddler. So it is something that is concerning. So I may have sent them to be seen by a specialist, and then they dig around a little bit more and they can find it. But yes, it is not a way to test. We don't want to test the babies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
young kids.
And I know when I was a teenager, I remember, and this young girl was probably in middle school, and we went to go visit her in the hospital. And I don't know what led them to, while
And
she was in the hospital, what led her to that point, but she had developed diabetes. And I just kind of figured looking back, well, maybe she did something at school, maybe she fell out or something, and oh, what's wrong? And then they started testing and then probably kind of figured it out
they
from that
figured it
point.
out. So we often talk about us as physicians, we're practicing.
Yeah.
Yes, practicing physicians. So it's not necessarily practicing it, but it's really by a process of elimination what's really going on.
Yeah.
That's why I really tell people you definitely need to listen to your body. If it continues, you keep going back. I
Mhm.
tell um, um, people all the time, don't give up. If you get one answer and it persists, you go back for a second opinion, or you go to someone else for a second opinion. I had one of my favorite patients. She would come and we tried our best to figure it out. When we figured out what was wrong, it was lung cancer.
Oh,
But she was saying she was having some like a burning sensation. But I looked and looked and looked again, process of elimination. You do end up trying to figure out what is going on by the multiple tests and studies.
yeah. And, I'm also thinking about because some people develop diabetes maybe after I hear people have gotten COVID, never had diabetes before. And then once they had COVID, then they start having all these other symptoms. But it goes back to listening to your body. If you know something isn't right, then keep going back and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Please figure it out. you know.
Right. And we don't necessarily know exactly did they have it before,
Okay.
right? That's number one.
I got you.
Two, COVID really did mess with people's arteries, their vessels. You know, that's why they were having the problems with their lungs.
Yeah.
So we don't know, because this was so new,
Yeah.
of how did this come about? So you're right. Listening to your body is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. When you brought up that water slide, I just had a conversation with my aunt. She is 80 years old, and so transparency moment. Most of the people in my family have diabetes. I mean, that's just the one thing that touches probably like one in every two people. So that's one number I know that I have to watch.
Yes,
Um, but she was talking to me and she said, oh, my sugar, they call it sugar.
yes,
She is 80.
yes,
My sugar was up a little bit last night because I didn't drink enough water the day before. And I was like, what? But since she said that, that makes sense.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So the reason why you have that excessive thirst is because your body is trying to decrease your sugar, and it's kind of like trying to dilute it and get it where it needs to go,
Gotcha.
right? But our goal is not to overload the pancreas. So when we're obese, everybody hates that word, but when you're overweight, the
Mhm.
pancreas is like, I'm doing the best that I can. So if you lose the weight, you have a better chance of the pancreas not getting overload and able to produce enough insulin to keep those glucose levels down.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, we don't pay attention a lot of times, and we just keep drinking the water. But
Right.
mineral water is like the ideal thing. Our body is made of 60% water. You're like, what? 60% of water.
Mm.
But it's so, how would I say? I want to say free because, we get the bottled water, but, water is important and we just need to do it instead of the Coke and the Pepsi and the teas and then putting the, sugar. Just try your best to do the water. A lot of people lose the weight once they start doing the water.
Yeah. Good. One last question, and I think you may have said it before, but I want to make sure. You talked about going to the optometrist, for your eyes.
Yeah.
Should everyone go to podiatrist, especially let's say if you have already been labeled or have the diagnosis of diabetes, should that be the next, clinician that you see?
Yes. So the eyes are very, very critical when you're living with diabetes because it lets us know if there is more damage to those little tiny vessels in the eyes. The same goes for the feet. If you go to the doctors and they don't say, let me look at the bottom of your feet, go ahead and take your shoes off
Uh-huh.
and just sit there and wait so that they can look at your feet. Because
Yeah.
we do need to look at your feet. Because what if you have a ulcer or a sore, right?
Right.
And people who have extra weight not necessarily can put their foot up there and look at the bottom of their foot to
Mhm.
see what's going on. So, do you know how they do it? How do you check your feet when you can't look at the bottom? Look at it, a mirror.
Mhm.
Put a mirror on the ground, look at the bottom of your feet. You do need to inspect your feet.
Mhm.
And you got to be careful of the type of shoes. Don't be running on the beach without any shoes. Make sure you have the right type of shoes, even when you're walking. And make sure when you see the podiatrist, they'll recommend the type of inserts you need to have. But yes, remember the word peripheral artery disease?
Mhm.
That is likely the reason that you're having some wound or something that's not healing. So you definitely need to check your feet. You
Mhm.
definitely need to make sure if you see something that's not improved and healing, then you need to get to the podiatrist so they can evaluate it. And then they may even do the tests where they check the pressure in your legs. Remember the peripheral arteries and the blood pressure in your arm? Well, they compare the pressure in the arm and the pressure in your legs.
Yeah.
And that is a very important test to say, wait a minute, there's a discrepancy here. And so that means the blood flow might be decreased in the legs, which could lead to those amputations.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome, Dr. Witt. I mean, this was so informative. That I didn't know there was a pre-diabetes risk test. So I'm going to be looking forward to taking that and just knowing your numbers. I think we always talk about that when we have physician on, but it's so important, guys. Go to your doctor, go to that annual and make sure they're doing all of those tests and run all those labs, just to make sure we can have be in our best optimal health. And this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I mean, I didn't get to go into more, but you need to know your cholesterol, you need to know the good.
I thought about that too. Yeah.
You got to know. So you want to be able to gather that information so that if you were out and you were doing a screening at a CVS, you can go back to your doctor and say, look what happened. I got this number. Compare this number with what I did last year. Is something different going on? Let's look into it. And your provider is going to be so happy that you're investing in it because you want to do better.
Right.
You want to know. I always think of this is all some wisdom, and wisdom is the application of knowledge. So now you got the knowledge, so just take the wisdom.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today for this Winning Wednesday. We've been talking about diabetes with Dr. Deborah Witt. And listen, so important. Please make sure you are listening to this information, really taking it in, soaking it in. Don't just be like, oh, that was cute. You know, I like that. She said some good stuff and she was funny. And no, that's not what this is for. This is so that we can be better, so we can live better, so we can live longer and have life and have it more abundantly. So let's make sure we're doing our part and share with your friends, your family members, even the stubborn ones, the ones that, you know, I'm just going to eat this chocolate cake and give myself a shot. No, talk to them too, you know, because we always have one family member that's like that. And so I got some in mind back home. So, but yeah, so let's make sure we do that, guys. And I believe that's all we have for today. But don't forget, fam, November to Remember is still in effect. This Sunday, we have Dr. John Cook, who's going to bless our hearts. You know, this is our church's 9th anniversary. And so we are super excited that we are able to celebrate 9 years of ministry here in the Birmingham area. And so we could not have done it without you guys and those who watch online. So we're going to be celebrating all month long, every Sunday, a guest speaker every Sunday. So this upcoming Sunday is going to be Pastor John Cook of CBF International Ministries. And then the last Sunday of this month, we have Bishop Kevin Adams out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Y'all don't want to miss either one of those Sundays. So thank you so much. Don't forget, we're asking that you sow in increments of 9 for 9 years of ministry here in Birmingham, Alabama. So thank you for that. Thank you, Dr. Witt. Any last reminding words you want to kind of share with us?
I just want to remind you to, like you already said, share this with family and friends, neighbors, enemies, everybody, right? Because one of the things that happens is sometimes people need the little nuggets along the way. And put the information, those little charts, put them on the refrigerator door. So when you have family over for Thanksgiving,
use them as placemats.
Oh, wow. What is that? And one of my homework assignments at my church when I did the diabetes class was after everybody eats, we got to go for a brisk 30-minute walk.
That's nice. I like that.
Isn't that something? And everybody has to go and not fast. Just get out and enjoy the 30 minutes. And they're like, oh no, yes, give it.
I knew someone, they had a tradition where I don't know what the women did, but the men played football after Thanksgiving. They played in the backyard. So yeah, that's good. I like that. We go for a brisk walk.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be fast because some people can't go fast. But the thing is that you're getting out there. I remember when I started my walking journey, I said, let me just see if this, this pedometer works right. So I just walked 5 minutes to see how many steps I did. And it was like, oh, it did work. Okay. So I've increased it over time. I can walk 3 miles and I love it.
Yes. Awesome. There's so many things out there. I have Sweat Coin on my phone, and that's an app. I don't know if you heard about that, but they will actually
Hey,
pay. Yeah, they give you can, save up your miles or whatever and pay for stuff, buy stuff they have on the app. I'm saving up mine. I'm a saver. So
oh,
but yeah, they have all kind of things out there as incentives.
I haven't heard that one, but I'm gonna tell everybody about it.
Sweat Coin.
It's,
So
that again is called
it's called Sweat Coin.
Wet
You're
Coin. Okay,
sweating and then coin. Yep.
excellent. I love it.
So thank you, everyone. We will see you guys. Oh, not next Wednesday because that's Thanksgiving. So we're going to see y'all the week after that. We're going to have Snapper Freeman talk about pancreatic cancer. So that's been a hot topic lately, and so we want to get some information about that because sometimes when you go to a doctor, they diagnose you for one thing and it could be something else, but keep going back. We're going to talk about that next time when we see you guys. So thank you so much. Have a great day. And thank you so much, Dr. Witt. We appreciate you.
Oh, I'm just blessed to be here. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you. Till next time. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.